I'm Val Webb, and in this two-part video, I'm going to show you a simple way to draw a human face. Now, I encourage you to go out and sketch people in all situations. That's the best way to learn to develop your ability to sketch and draw the human face. But this exercise is going to show you typical proportions for a young adult and also how to draw each of the facial features. We'll draw the eyes, the nose, and the mouth and talk about where they fit on the front of the skull. So we're going to use something called a proportional template to do this. And what that is a series of 6 boxes, 6 squares. You can set this up very easily on an 8.5 by 11 paper. Each box is 3 by 3 inches, and the bottom 2 pairs each have a dotted line that goes through the middle horizontally. Now, at the end of this video, I will give you my email address, and I'd be very happy to email you a printable template, a printable image of this template so that you can print it out and use it over and over again. The materials we're going to use are a 2B drawing pencil and a kneaded eraser. If you don't have these, that's absolutely fine. You can do this very well with a number 2 school pencil, whatever you have at hand, a piece of printer paper from your computer. So don't let that stop you. Go right ahead. The first thing we're going to start with is the shape of the skull. And people often will begin with an oval shape when they're drawing a human face, but actually the skull is a circle with the jaw attached underneath. So we're going to draw a rough circle that fills in the top 4 squares. Okay, and then we're going to come in about 1/4 of an inch on each side here. We're going to flatten the circle. That creates the place where the temples will go. And then we'll drop this down, just the jaw, down to the bottom of the template. Okay, and at this point, we have a good basic shape of a human head. And so we can come back and erase extra circle, part of the circle that we don't need anymore, and the extra lines that we were left over here when we drew the flattened area. So now we have a good outline of a face. We're going to start with the eyes. And on this template, the eyes rest on top of this horizontal line. This line happens to be exactly halfway between the crown of the head and the tip of the chin. And so this is the line. The eyes rest on top of it. The line does not go through the eyes. But before we put the eyes on our template, we're going to come over here and talk about the mechanics of drawing an eye. Instead of a football shape, the human eye actually starts out more as a parallelogram, just sort of a slanted, four-sided shape. So it's more something like that. So you can start out with that shape, and you soften the lines a little bit. You have the area where the tear ducts are, and the eye is a round orb inside a flexible opening, and it's fine if you want to indicate that by the edges, give more of a sense of the roundness of the eye. We'll put in a little suggestion of an eyelid here on top, a little underneath, and then we're going to draw the color part of the eye, iris, just round, and sometimes you'll have a little bit of white left underneath. You don't want to make the pupils too large. Now when you're drawing small children or babies, sometimes they have a wide-eyed look. Well, that's mainly because the young children's pupils are usually more dilated than an adult, and their eyes are larger in proportion to their faces. And you can see that when you take a look at a baby, the shape of the baby's face. Whereas the adult eye rests, here's your halfway mark. The adult eye would be resting here on top of that halfway line. A small child or baby's eyes are actually well below. Just a little quick sketch here, well below that center point. So their skulls are much larger in proportion to their faces, the facial features than in adults are. So with a baby, you have very, very different proportions, and those proportions change as the person grows up. Back up to the eye again, there's a very slight shadow on the white of the eye because the brow bone that's up here overshadows the eye just a bit, and so does the eyelid. And if you add that little curved shadow, which is very, very slight, really gives you a sense of roundness. Now, sometimes you'll see people draw eyelashes and they look like the spokes of a bicycle wheel, and that's generally not what you really see when you look at someone. Often, it's enough just to add a slightly rough textured line to indicate eyelashes. That's probably all you need to do. When the eye's open, eyelashes are foreshortened because they're pointing at you. You really don't see this effect. You see more texture. Occasionally, if a woman has a lot of very lush lashes, a lot of mascara, you might see one or two individual lashes. You're still not going to see a great deal, and that's probably all you need to do in drawing an eyelash. So we have a basic eye. We're going to come over here and put a couple of eyes on our template, and they're going to rest on top of the line, and generally speaking, typical proportions, which is what we're using here, the two eyes will be approximately 1 eye width apart. So we're going to figure out, just kind of looking here, just roughly mark how far apart our eyes will be, and we know that's the width of the eye that we want to draw. So we've got them sort of plotted out, and we'll go ahead. Once again, we're going to start with that kind of parallelogram shape. Rather than the football. Put that on the and then finish the eyes in just as we did just a minute ago. Area for the tear duct. Suggestion of an eyelid. We're just doing a kind of quick sketch here, so we won't spend too much time on that. Pupils and irises. Left a little highlight. The highlight is usually has a rounded shape in the human eye because the eye is an orb. It's very, very shiny and translucent. It reflects light much like a glass marble does through many layers, and so we'll leave an unshaded area down here at the bottom where the eye is capturing that light. Okay, and put another one over here. Suggestion of an eyelid. Little highlight, not too large. Just a little bit of light there. And a little shadow on the white of the eye. Okay, this line a little heavier here. Okay, so we have two basic eyes. And now, let's look at the eyebrows. Eyebrows, of course, are very movable, and based on, depending on the expression of the person, they can be almost anywhere, but because we're doing sort of a relaxed, still expression, we're going to just have our eyebrows be somewhat relaxed here. And you don't have to worry too much about eyebrows being symmetrical. Most people's eyebrows actually are not very symmetrical. And when you draw them, you want to use very short strokes that imitate the eyebrow hair itself and move in the direction the hair grows, almost as if you were grooming the eyebrows. Just go in the direction that they naturally grow. Very short pencil lines. We'll do the same on this side. All right. And picking them up just a bit. They don't have to be symmetrical, but it's good for them to be similar, at least when they're just in a resting state. Okay, we're going to put a tiny bit of shadow because the brow bone, where the eyebrow rests, is above the eye, and we're going to put a little bit of shadow on the inside. And what this starts to do, the shadow starts to build up an area here. Anytime you're drawing, shadow makes things look as if they're receding or moving away from you, and lighter areas look like they're coming forward. So already we're creating this area where the bridge of the nose looks like it's starting to come forward. Okay, and we're going to just take our finger, because we're using a soft pencil, we can blend a little bit that way. We're going to pause here, and in the first part 1 of drawing the face and part 2, video part 2, we will draw the nose and the mouth and add the rest of the shading. So if you would like me to email you a template like this one that you can use over and over again to practice drawing the human face, just send me an email. My email address is studio@valwebb.com, and I will send that back to you along with a printable PDF that shows how the proportions of the face change from infancy through adulthood. Thanks a lot.